Yeah, too loud. Yeah. Samsaradava nalalidaloka tranaya karuna gana ganatam shamsaradava nalalidaloka tranaya karuna gana ganatam prapta sakalyana gunanavasya vande guru shri charanara vrindam prapta sakalyana gunanavasya vande guru shri charanara vrindam vande guru shri charanara vrindam Mahaprabhu kirtana nitya gita vaditra madhyam manasurasena romanchakam pasru taranga bhajo vande guru shri charanara vrindam Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Shringaratanama Niramarjanado Shringaratanama Juktasya Bhaktamsa Niyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasada Swatana Triptan Hari Bhakta Sangha Bhagavat Prasada Swatana Triptan Kritva eva tripte Bhajata Shadeva Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Shiradikama Davayara Para Madhurya Lila Guna Rupa Namna Shiradikama Madhurya Lila Pratikshana Danalalupasa Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Ne kunjayuno Pratikele Siddhai Jajali Viri Joktir Apekshaniya Jono Rati Tatrati daksha ativalabhasya Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam. Sakshat Haridena Shamasta Shastre Ruktastathava Gataiva Sadhavi. Pinto Pravarja Priya eva tasya Bande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam. Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasada Yasya Prasadam Nagati Kutapi. Yasya Prasadam Dayam Stuvam Tasya Yasa Trisandhyam Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam. Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam. Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Saminiti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Prachadine Nirvishesha Shunavadi Pachata Desha Tarine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hari Haraye Namah, Krishna Jadavaye Namah, Jadavaye Madhavaya Keshavaya Namah, Gopal Govindaram Shri Madhusudan, Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan, Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhattara Guna Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasara Guna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Pramanandi Haribo. Jai Vishnu Par Paraminsa Prabhaja Kachari Sutara Sarashishi Marji Divani Grace, Apachar Vinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj. Srila Prabhupada की जय इस्कॉन प्रतिष्ठा विभूति संस्थापकाचार्य वैष्णव शिरोमणि पतित पावन श्रील प्रभुपाद जी महाराज की जय श्री गौर्य गुरु वर्गापति उद्धार की जय श्री रूप सनातन भक्त रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्ट दास गुण सदगोस्वामी प्रभु की जय नामाचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर जी की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिव सरि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय जय परम दयाल श्री नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय जय प्रेम नाम संकीर्तन एक जनक प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम श्री सच्चिदानंद श्री गौरंग श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभु गौर हरि महावृणावतार की जय गोलोकेर प्रमधानी नाम संकीर्तन जय की जय जुग धर्म हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय बृहद निदांग ट्रांसलेंटल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सेवा की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ राधा कुंद श्याम कुंद गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय श्री ब्रजभूमि वृंदावन मथुर धाम की जय तिलोश विशेष राधा नीलमाधव की जय श्री मायापुर नवद्वीप एक चक्र धाम की जय परम करुण श्री गौर निताय की जय श्री पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी बलदेव प्रभु स्मस्पद्रा देवी सुदर्शन चक्र भगवान की जय सीताराम लक्ष्मण भक्त हनुमान जी की जय भक्ति सर्व विघ्न विनाशन कर्ण सिंह रे भगवान की जय जय गंगा माई जमुना माई की जय तुलसी महारानी वृंदी देवी भक्ति देवी की जय श्री मथुरा रानी की जय समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय निताय गौरी प्रमानंदे all glories to the assembly bodies, all glories to the assembly bodies, all glories to the assembly bodies, all glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru Shri Guru.
Namaste Narasimhaya Namaste Narasimhaya Praladadadaine हिरण्यकशिपुर्वक्षः शीलटङ्कानकालये इतो नरसिंह परतो नरसिंह यतो यतो यामि ततो नरसिंह बहिर्नरसिंह हृदये नरसिंह नरसिंहमदिं शरणं प्रपदे तव करकमलवरेणाखाम् अद्भुतशृङ्गां ललिता हिरण्यकशिपो तनुभृङ्गा केशवदिता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे तो कर कमल केशवदिता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे केशवदिता नरहरिरूपा जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज सर्व भक्ति विघ्न विनाशक लक्ष्मीपति नरसिंहदेव भगवान की प्रहलाद महाराज की
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रियासी नमो नमः राधा कृष्ण सेवा पाओ ऐ अभिलाषी राधा कृष्ण सेवा पाओ ऐ अभिलाषी जे तमारा शरण लो तारा वंशा पूर्ण हो कृपा कोरी करो तारे वृंदावन वासी मोरा यही बिलास कुंज दियो वा नयने हरिबो सदा युगल रूप राशि ऐ निवेदन धारो सखिरनुगत गुरु सेवाधिकार दिए करो निज दासी दीना कृष्ण दास कोई ऐ जिना मोरा होए ना श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेम सदा न भासी श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेम सदा न भासी यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्मत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ते प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्मत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ते प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्मत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi Nitai Gora Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gora Hari Bol Vrinda Devi Tulsi Maharani ki jai
Glory to the Shri Krishna. His grace of heart and his death and mercy. And enables us to fully test the nectar for which all is anxious. Oh my Lord, the holy name alone can render all benedictions to living beings. And thus you have hundreds, millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. It's not even hard and fast rule for chanting these names. Oh my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach by your holy name. But I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. Once you chant the holy name of the Lord in humble state of mind, think oneself lower than straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of all prestige, and should be ready to offer respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth. Nor do I desire to for women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causes devoted for service first. O Son of Maharaj, Nanda Krishna, I'm your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I'm falling this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the items at your lotus feet. O my Lord, will my eyes will be decorated with tears of love, flowing constantly when I chant your holy name. Will my voice choke up, and will the hairs of my body stand on end at every station of the name. O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am constantly moment you like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes in the torrents of rain, and I feel all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he should remain so, even if sunders me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, but he's always my worshipful Lord, unconditional. Yet in offenses matter, chanting the holy name of the Lord, that should be avoided. They are as follows. One,
Give your life. Okay. Holy names of the Lord.
two,
Consider the names of demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent names of Lord Vishnu. Disobey the orders of the spiritual master. The last in the Vedic literature and pursuance in the Vedic version. Consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna as imagination. To give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord. To commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. Chanting Hare Krishna is one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in Vedas as fruit of activities of karma kanda. To instruct the faithless person about the glories of the holy name. 10. Not have complete faith in the holy name. And to maintain material attachments even after understanding some instructions in this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava has carefully guarded against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisance unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just like desired trees that can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakalpatarabhyascha kripasindhabhyavcha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Vaishnava Thakur ki jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Pucharini Vishesha. So today we're continuing to read from the Krishna book, but first we'll hear from Canto 2, Chapter 7, verse number 2. Jato ruchir ajanayat sumanyam suyagya akuti shunur amaran ata dakshinayam lokatrayasya mahitim aharad yadartim swayam bhuvena manuna harir iti anuktaha. Translation. The Prajapati first begot Suyagya in the womb of his wife Akuti. And then Suyagya begot demigods headed by Suyama in the womb of his wife Dakshina. Suyagya, as the Indradeva, diminished very great miseries in the three planetary systems, upper, lower, and intermediate. And because he so diminished the miseries of the universe, he was later called Hari by the great father of mankind, namely Swayambhuva Mana. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. In order to guard against the invention of unauthorized incarnations of God by the fanciful, less intelligent persons, the name of the father of the bona fide incarnation is also mentioned in the authorized revealed scriptures. No one, therefore, can be accepted as an incarnation of the Lord if his father's name, as well as the name of the village or place in which he appears, is not mentioned by the authorized scriptures. In the Bhagavata Purana, the name of the Kalki incarnation, which is to take place in almost 400,000 years, is mentioned, along with the name of his father and the name of the village in which he will appear. A sane man, therefore, does not accept any cheap edition of an incarnation without reference to the authorized scriptures. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So now we are continuing. Yesterday we read the preface to the Krishna book, and now we're going to read the introduction. Krishna, 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 Hey. Krishna, 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 Hey. Krishna, 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 Rakshamam. Krishna, 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 Pahimam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshamam. Krishna Kesava, Krishna Kesava, Krishna Kesava, Pahimam. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 7.96. While attempting to write this book, Krishna, let me first offer my respectful obeisance to my spiritual master, Om Vishnu Pada 108, Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada. Then let me offer my respectful obeisance to the Ocean of Mercy, Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself, appearing in the role of a devotee just to distribute the highest principles of devotional service. Lord Chaitanya began his preaching from the country known as Gauda Desha, West Bengal. And as I belong to the Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, I must therefore offer my respectful obeisances to the disciplic succession of that name. This Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya is also known as the Brahma Sampradaya because the disciplic succession originally began from Brahma. Brahma instructed the sage Narada. Narada instructed Vyasadeva, and Vyasadeva instructed Madhva Muni or Madhvacharya. Sri Madhvendra Puri, the originator of the Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, was a sannyasi, renunciate, who belonged to the Madhvacharya disciplic succession. He had many renowned disciples, such as Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Prabhu, and Ishwara Puri. Ishwara Puri happened to be the spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, let us offer our respectful obeisances to Ishwara Puri, Nityananda Prabhu, Shri Advaita Prabhu, Shri Advaitacharya Prabhu, Shivas Pandita, and Shri Gadadhar Pandita. Next, let us offer our respectful obeisances to Swarup Damodara, who acted as the private secretary to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And let us offer our respectful obeisances to Sri Vasudeva Datta and the constant attendant of Lord Chaitanya, Sri Govinda, and the constant friend of Lord Chaitanya, Mukunda, and also to Murari Gupta. And let us offer our respectful obeisances to the six Goswamis of Vrindavana, Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatan Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Gopala Bhatta Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Raghunath Dasa Goswami. Krishna himself has explained in the Bhagavad Gita that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that whenever there are discrepancies in the regulative principles of man's religious life and a prominence of irreligious activities, he appears on this earthly planet. In other words, when Lord Sri Krishna appeared, there was a necessity of minimizing the load of sinful activities accumulated on this planet or in this universe. For affairs of the material creation, Lord Mahavishnu, the plenary portion of Krishna, is in charge. Thus, when the Lord descends, the incarnation emanates from Vishnu. Mahavishnu is the original cause of the material creation, and from him, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu expands, and then Shirodakshaya Vishnu. Generally, all the incarnations appearing within this material universe are plenary expansions from Shirodakshaya Vishnu. Therefore, the business of minimizing the overload of sinful activities on this earth does not belong to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself. But when Krishna appears, all the Vishnu expansions join with it. Krishna's different expansions, namely Narayana, the quadruple expansion of Vasudeva, Sankar's son, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, as well as partial plenary expansions like Matsya, the incarnation of a fish, and the Yuga avatars, incarnations for the millennium, and the Manvantara avatars, incarnations associated with the reigns of the Manus, all combine together and appear with the body of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna is the complete whole, and thus all plenary expansions and incarnations always live with him. Therefore, when Krishna appeared, Lord Vishnu was with him. Krishna actually appears in order to demonstrate his Vrindavan pastimes, and in this way attract the fortunate conditioned souls and invite them back home, back to Godhead. The killing of the demons in Vrindavana was carried out only by the Vishnu portion of Krishna. The Lord's abode is described in the Bhagavad Gita, 8th chapter, 20th verse, where it is stated that there is another eternal nature, the spiritual sky, which is transcendental to this manifested and non-manifested matter. The material world the manifested world can be seen in the form of many stars and planetary systems, such as the sun and moon. But beyond this, there is a non-differentiated portion which is not approachable by anyone in this body. And beyond that non-manifested matter is the spiritual kingdom. That kingdom is described in the Bhagavad Gita as supreme and eternal, never to be annihilated. This material nature is subjected to repeated creation and annihilation, but that part, the spiritual nature, remains as it is eternally. The supreme abode of the personality of Godhead, Krishna, is also described in the Brahma Samhita as the abode of Chintamani. That abode of Lord Krishna, known as Goloka Vrindavana, is full of palaces made of touchstone. There the trees are called desire trees, and the cows are called Surabhi. The Lord is served there by hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune. His name is Govinda, the primeval Lord, and he is the cause of all causes. There the Lord plays his flute. His eyes are like lotus petals, and the color of his body is like that of a beautiful cloud. On his head is a peacock feather. He is so attractive that he excels thousands of cupids. Lord Krishna gives only a little hint in the Gita of his personal abode, which is the supermost planet in the spiritual kingdom. But in Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna actually appears with all his paraphernalia and demonstrates his activities in Vrindavana, then at Mathura, and then at Dwarka. The subject matter of this book will gradually reveal all these activities. The family in which Krishna appeared is called the Yadu dynasty. This Yadu dynasty belongs to the family descending from Soma, the god in the moon planet. There are two different Kshatriya families of the royal order, one descending from the king of the moon planet and the other descending from the king of the sun planet. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears, he generally appears as a Kshatriya family because he has to establish religious principles or the life of righteousness. The Kshatriya family is the protector of the human race. According to the Vedic system, when the Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared as Lord Ramachandra, he appeared in the family descending from the sun god known as the Raghu Vamsa, and when he appeared as Lord Krishna, he did so in a family known as the Yadu Vamsa. There is a long list of kings of the Yadu Vamsa in the 9th canto, the 24th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. All of them were great, powerful kings. Krishna's father's name was Vasudeva, or son of Surasena, descending from the Yadu's dynasty. Actually, the Supreme Personality of Godhead does not belong to any dynasty of this material world, but the family in which the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears becomes famous by his grace. For example, sandalwood is produced in the states of Malaya. Sandalwood has its own qualifications apart from Malaya, but because accidentally this wood is mainly produced in the states of Malaya, it is known as Malayan sandalwood. Similarly, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, belongs to everyone, but just as the sun rises from the east, although there are other directions from which it could rise, so, by his own choice, the Lord appears as a particular family, in a particular family, and that family becomes famous. As explained above, when Krishna appears, all his plenary expansions appear with him. Krishna appeared along with Balarama, Baladeva, who is known as his elder brother. Balarama is the origin of Sankarsana, of the quadruple expansion. Balarama is also the plenary expansion of Krishna. In this book, the attempt will be made to show how Krishna appeared in his family of the Yadu dynasty and how he displays his transcendental characteristics. This is clearly, vividly described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, specifically the 10th canto, and thus the basis of this book will be the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. The pastimes of the Lord are generally heard and relished by liberated souls. Those who are conditioned souls are interested in reading stories of the material activities of some common man, although similar narrations describing the transcendental activities of the Lord are found in Srimad Bhagavatam and other Puranas. The conditioned souls still prefer to study ordinary narrations. They are not so interested in studying the narrations of the pastimes of the Lord, Krishna. And yet the descriptions of the pastimes of Lord Krishna are so attractive that they are relishable for all classes of men. There are three classes of men in this world. One class consists of liberated souls, another consists of those who are trying to be liberated, and the third consists of materialistic men. Whether one is liberated or is trying to be liberated or even grossly materialistic, the pastimes of Lord Krishna are worth studying. Liberated souls have no interest in materialistic activities. The impersonalist theory that after liberation one becomes inactive and need not hear anything does not prove that a liberated person is actually inactive. A living soul cannot be inactive. He is active either in the conditioned state or in the liberated state. A diseased person, for example, is also active, but his activities are all painful. The same person, when freed from the disease condition, is still active, but in the healthy condition, the activities are full of pleasure. Similarly, the impersonalists only seek to get free from the diseased conditioned activities, but they have no information of activities in a healthy condition. Those who are actually liberated and in full knowledge take to hearing the activities of Krishna. Such engagement is pure spiritual activity. It is essential for persons who are actually liberated to hear about the pastimes of Krishna. That is the supreme relishable subject matter for one in a liberated state. Also, if persons who are trying to be liberated hear such narrations as the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, then their paths of liberation become very clear. The Bhagavad Gita is the preliminary study of Srimad Bhagavatam, but by studying the Gita, one becomes fully conscious of the position of Lord Krishna. And when he is situated at the lotus feet of Krishna, he understands the narrations of Krishna as described in Srimad Bhagavatam. Lord Chaitanya has therefore advised his followers that their business is to propagate Krishna Katha. Krishna Katha means narrations about Lord Krishna. There are two Krishna Kathas, narrations spoken by Krishna and narrations spoken about Krishna. The Bhagavad Gita is the narration or the philosophy on the science of God, spoken by Krishna himself. Srimad Bhagavatam is the narration about the activities and transcendental pastimes of God, of Krishna. Both are Krishna Katha. It is the order of Lord Chaitanya that Krishna Katha should be spread all over the world, because if the conditioned souls suffering under the pangs of material existence take the Krishna Katha, then their path of liberation will be open and clear. The purpose of presenting this book is primarily to induce people to understand Krishna or Krishna Katha, because thereby they can become freed from material bondage. This Krishna Katha will also be very much appealing to the most materialistic persons, because Krishna pastimes with the gopis, cowherd girls, are exactly like the loving affairs between young girls and boys within this material world. Actually, the sex feeling found in human society is not unnatural, because the same sex feeling is there in the original personality of Godhead. The pleasure potency is called Srimati Radhara. The attraction of loving affairs on the basis of sex feeling is the original feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we, the conditioned souls, being part and parcel of the Supreme, have such feelings also, but they are experienced within a perverted, minute condition. Therefore, when those who are after sex life in this material world hear about Krishna's pastimes with the gopis, they will relish transcendental pleasure, although it is appearing to be materialistic. The advantage will be that they will gradually be elevated to the spiritual kingdom, spiritual platform. In the Bhagavatam, it is stated that if one hears the pastimes of Lord Krishna with the gopis from authorities and with submission, then he will be promoted to the platform of transcendental submission. Transcendental loving service to the Lord, and the material disease of lust within his heart will be completely vanquished. In other words, such hearing will counteract material sex life. This book, Krishna, which is filled with Krishna Katha, will thus appeal equally to the liberated souls and to persons who are trying to be liberated, as well as to the gross conditioned materialists. According to the statement of Maharaj Parikshit, who heard about Krishna from Sukadeva Goswami, Krishna Katha is equally applicable to every human being, whatever condition of life he is in. Surely everyone will appreciate it to the highest magnitude. But Maharaj Parikshit also warned that persons who are simply engaged in killing animals and in killing themselves may not be very much attracted to Krishna Katha. In other words, ordinary persons who are following the regulative moral principles of scriptures, no matter in what condition they are found, will certainly be attracted, but not persons who are killing themselves. The exact word used in Srimad Bhagavatam is pasugana, which means one who is killing animals or killing himself. Persons who are not self-realized and who are not interested in spiritual realization are killing themselves. They are committing suicide because this human form of life is especially meant for self-realization. By neglecting this important part of his activities, one simply wastes his time like the animals. So, he is a pasuguna. The other meaning of the word refers to those who are actually killing animals. This means persons who are animal eaters, even dog eaters, for they are all engaged in killing animals in so many ways, such as hunting and opening slaughterhouses. Such persons cannot be interested in Krishna Katha. King Parikshit was especially interested in hearing Krishna Katha because he knew that his forefathers, particularly his grandfather Arjuna, were victorious in the battle of Kurukshetra. Only because of Krishna we may also take this material world as a battlefield of Kurukshetra. Everyone is struggling hard for existence on this battlefield, and at every step there is danger. According to Maharaj Parikshit, the battlefield of Kurukshetra was just like a vast ocean full of dangerous animals. His grandfather Arjuna had to fight with such great heroes as Bhisma, Drona, Karna, and many others who were not ordinary fighters. Such warriors have been compared to the Timingala fish, Timingila fish in the ocean. The Timingila fish can very easily swallow up big whales. The great fighters on the battlefield of Kurukshetra could swallow many Arjunas very easily, but simply due to Krishna's mercy, Arjuna was able to kill all of them, just as one can cross with no exertion over a little bit of water containing the hoof print of a calf. So Arjuna, by the grace of Krishna, was able to very easily jump over the ocean of the battle of Kurukshetra. Maharaj Parikshit very much appreciated Krishna's activities for many other reasons. Not only was his grandfather saved by Krishna, but he himself also was saved by Krishna. By the end of the battle of Kurukshetra, all the members of the Kuru dynasty, both the sons and grandsons, on the side of Dhritarashtra and those on the side of the Pandavas, had died in the fighting. Except the 5 Pandava brothers, everyone died in the fighting. Except the 5 Pandava brothers, everyone died on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Maharaj Parikshit was at that time within the womb of his mother. His father, Abhimanyu, the son of Arjuna, also died on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and so Maharaj Parikshit was a posthumous child. When he was in the womb of his mother, a Brahmastra weapon was released by Ashwatthama to kill the child. When Parikshit, Maharaj's mother, Uttara, approached Krishna, Krishna, seeing the danger of abortion, entered her womb as the super soul and saved Maharaj Parikshit. Maharaj Parikshit's other name was Vishnurata because he was saved by Lord Vishnu himself while still within the womb. Thus, everyone in any condition of life should be interested in hearing about Krishna and his activities because he is the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead. He is all-pervading. Inside, he is living within everyone's heart, and outside he is living as his universal form. And yet, as described in the Bhagavad Gita, he appears as he is in the human society, just to invite everyone to his transcendental abode back home, back to Godhead. Everyone should be interested in knowing about Krishna, and this book is presented with this purpose, that people may know about Krishna and be perfectly benefited in this human form of life. In the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Baladeva is described as the son of Rohini, a wife of Vasudeva. Vasudeva, the father of Krishna, had 16 wives, and one of them was Rohini, the mother of Baladeva. But Baladeva is also described as the son of Devaki. So how could he be the son of Devaki and Rohini? This was one of the questions put by Maharaj Parikshit to Sukadeva Goswami, and it will be answered in due course. Maharaj Pariksit also asked Sukadeva Goswami why Sri Krishna, just after his appearance as the son of Vasudeva, was immediately carried to the house of Nanda Maharaja in Vrindavan at Gokula. He also wanted to know what the activities of Lord Krishna were while he was in Vrindavan and while he was in Mathura. Besides that, he was especially inquisitive to know why Krishna killed his maternal uncle, Kamsa. Kamsa, being the brother of his mother, was very important, superior to Krishna, was a very intimate superior to Krishna. So how was it that he killed Kamsa? Also, Maharaj Pariksit asked how many years Lord Krishna remained in human society, how many years he reigned over the kingdom of Dwarka, and how many wives he accepted there. A Kshatriya king is generally accustomed to accept more than one wife. Therefore, Maharaj Pariksit also inquired about his number of wives. The subject matter of this book is Sukadeva Goswami's answering of these questions and other questions asked by Maharaj Pariksit. The position of Maharaj Pariksit and Sukadeva Goswami is unique. Maharaj Pariksit is the right person to hear about the transcendental pastimes of Krishna, and Sukadeva Goswami is the right person to describe them. If such a fortunate combination is made possible, then Krishna Katha immediately becomes revealed, and people may benefit to the highest immediate. So the position of Maharaj Pariksit and Sukadeva Goswami is unique. Maharaj Pariksit is the right person to hear about the transcendental pastimes of Krishna, and Sukadeva Goswami is the right person to describe them. If such a fortunate combination is made possible, then Krishna Katha immediately becomes revealed, and people may benefit to the highest possible degree from such a conversation. This narration was presented by Sukadeva Goswami when Maharaj Pariksit was prepared to give up his body, fasting on the bank of the Ganges, in order to assure Sukadeva Goswami that by hearing Krishna Katha he would not feel tired. Maharaj Pariksit expressed himself very frank. Hunger and thirst may give trouble to ordinary persons or to me, but the topics of Krishna are so nice that one can continue to hear them without feeling tired, because such hearing situates one in the transcendental position. It is understood that one must be very fortunate to hear Krishna Katha as seriously as Maharaj Pariksit did. He was especially intent on the subject matter because he was expecting death at any moment. Every one of us should be conscious of death at every moment. This life is not at all assured. At any time one can die. It does not matter whether one is a young man or an old man. So before death takes place, we must be fully Krishna conscious. At the point of his death, King Pariksit was hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from Sukadeva Goswami. When King Pariksit expressed his untiring desire to hear about Krishna, Sukadeva Goswami was very much pleased. Sukadeva was the greatest of all Bhagavata reciters, and thus he began to speak about Krishna's pastimes, which destroy all inauspiciousness in this age of Kali. Sukadeva Goswami thanked the king for his eagerness to hear about Krishna, and he encouraged him by saying, "My dear king, your intelligence is very keen because you are so eager to hear about the pastimes of Krishna." He informed Maharaj Pariksit that hearing and chanting the pastimes of Krishna are so auspicious that the processes purify the three varieties of men involved. He who recites the transcendental topics of Krishna, he who hears such topics, and he who inquires about him. These pastimes are just like the Ganges water, which flows from the toe of Lord Vishnu. They purify the three worlds, the upper, middle, and lower planetary systems. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Chapter 1. The Advent of Lord Krishna. Once the world was overburdened by the unnecessary defense force of different kings who were actually demons, but were posing themselves as the royal order. At that time, the whole world became perturbed, and the predominating deity of this earth, known as Bhumi, went to see Lord Brahma to tell of her calamities due to the demoniac kings. Bhumi assumed the shape of a cow and presented herself before Lord Brahma with tears in her eyes. She was bereaved and was weeping just to invoke the Lord's compassion. She related the calamitous position of the earth, and after hearing this, Lord Brahma became very aggrieved. He at once started for the ocean of milk where Lord Vishnu resides. Lord Brahma was accompanied by all the demigods, headed by Lord Shiva, and Bhumi also followed. Arriving on the shore of the milk ocean, Lord Brahma began to pacify Lord Vishnu, who had formerly saved the earthly planet by assuming the transcendental form of a boar. In the Vedic mantras, there is a particular type of prayer called Purusha Sukta. Generally, the demigods offer their obeisances unto Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by chanting the Purusha Sukta. It is understood herein that the predominating deity of every planet can see the Supreme Lord of this universe, Brahma, whenever there is some disturbance on this planet, on his planet. It is understood herein that the predominating deity of every planet can see the Supreme Lord of this universe, Brahma, whenever there is some disturbance on his planet. And Brahma can approach the Supreme Lord Vishnu, not by seeing him directly, but by standing on the shore of the ocean of milk. There is a planet within this universe called Sweta Dvipa, and on that planet there is an ocean of milk. It is understood by various Vedic literatures that just as there is the ocean of salt water on this planet, there are various kinds of oceans on other planets. Sometimes there is an ocean of milk. Somewhere there is an ocean of oil, and somewhere there are oceans of liquor and of many other types of liquids. The Purusha Sukta is the standard prayer which the devotees recite to appease the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shirodakshayi Vishnu, because he is lying on the ocean of milk. He is called Shirodakshayi Vishnu. He is the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead through whom all the incarnations within this universe appear. After all, the demigods offered the Purusha Sukta prayer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They apparently heard no response. Then Lord Brahma personally sat in meditation, and there was a message transmission from Lord Vishnu to Brahma. Brahma then broadcast the message to the demigods. That is a system of receiving Vedic knowledge. The Vedic knowledge is received first by Brahma from the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the medium of the heart. As stated in the beginning Srimad Bhagavatam, Tene Brahma Hridaya Adhikavayet. The transcendental knowledge of the Vedas was transmitted to Lord Brahma through the heart. Here also, in the same way, only Brahma could understand the message transmitted by Lord Vishnu, and he broadcast it to the demigods for their immediate action. The message was this: the Supreme Personality of Godhead would appear on the earth very soon, along with his supreme powerful potencies, as long as he remained on the earth planet to execute his mission of annihilating the demons and establishing the devotees. The demigods should also remain there to assist him. They should all immediately take birth in the family of the Yadu dynasty, wherein the Lord would also appear in due course of time. The Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, Krishna, would personally appear as the son of Vasudeva. Before his appearance, all the demigods, along with their wives, should appear in different pious families in the world just to assist the Lord in executing his mission. The exact word used here is tat priyartam, which means the demigods should appear on the earth in order to please the Lord. In other words, any living entity who lives only to satisfy the Lord is a demigod. The demigods were further informed that Ananta, the plenary portion of Lord Krishna, who is maintaining the universal planets by extending his millions of hoods, would also appear on earth before Lord Krishna's appearance. They were also informed that the external potency of Vishnu, Maya, with whom all the conditioned souls are enamored, as well as Bhumi, with sweet material planet called Brahmaloka, wherein lies the city of Mathura was also made the capital of the kings of the Yadu dynasty because the Yadus were a very pious family and knew that Mathura is the place where Lord Sri Krishna lives eternally, just as he also lives in Dwarka. Once upon a time, Vasudeva, the son of Surasena, just after marrying Devaki, was going home in his chariot with his newly wedded wife. The father of Devaki, known as Devaka, had contributed a sufficient dowry because he was very affectionate toward his daughter. He had contributed hundreds of chariots, completely decorated with gold equipment. At that time, Kamsa, the son of Ugrasena, in order to please his sister, Devaki, had voluntarily taken the reins of the horses of Vasudeva, chariot, and was driving. According to the custom of Vedic civilization, when a girl is married, the brother takes the sister and brother-in-law to their home because the newly married girl may feel too much separation from his father's family. The brother goes with her until she reaches her father-in-law's house. The full dowry contributed by Devaka was as follows: 400 elephants fully decorated with golden garlands, 15,000 decorated horses, and 1,800 chariots. He also arranged for 200 beautiful girls to follow his daughter. The Kshatriya system of marriage, still current in India, dictates that when a Kshatriya is married, a few dozen of the bride's young girlfriends, in addition to his bride, go to the house of the king. The followers of the queens are called maidservants, but actually they act as friends of the queen. This practice is prevalent from time immemorial, traceable at least to the time before the advent of Lord Krishna 5,000 years ago. So Vyasadeva brought home another 200 beautiful girls along with his wife Devaki. While the bride and groom were passing along on the chariot, there were different kinds of musical instruments playing to indicate the auspicious moment. There were conch shells, bugles, drums, and kettle drums. Combined together, they were vibrating a nice concert. The procession was passing very pleasingly, and Kamsa was driving the chariot when suddenly there was a miraculous sound vibrated from the sky, which especially announced to Kamsa, "Kamsa, you are such a fool. You are driving the chariot of your sister and your brother-in-law, but you do not know that the 8th child of this sister will kill you." Kamsa was the son of Ugrasena of the Bhoja dynasty. It is said that Kamsa was the most demoniac of all the Bhoja dynasty kings. Immediately after hearing the prophecy from the sky, he caught hold of Devaki's hair and was just about to kill her with his sword. Vasudeva was astonished at Kamsa's behavior, and in order to pacify the cruel, shameless brother-in-law, he began to speak as follows with great reason and evidence. He said, "My dear brother-in-law Kamsa, you are the most famous king of the Bhoja dynasty. The people know that you are the greatest warrior and a valiant king. How is it that you are so infuriated that you are prepared to kill a woman who is your own sister at this auspicious time of our marriage? Why should you be so much afraid of death? Death is already born along with your birth. From the very day you took your birth, you began to die. Suppose you are 25 years old. That means you have already died 25 years. Every moment, every second you are dying. Why then should you be so much afraid of death? Final death is inevitable. You may die either today or in 100 years. You cannot avoid death. Why should you be so much afraid? Actually, death means annihilation of the present body. As soon as the present body stops functioning and mixes with the 5 elements of material nature, the living entity within the body accepts another body according to the present actions and reactions. It's just like when a man dies. When a man dies, as soon as the present body stops functioning and mixes with the five elements of material nature, the living entity within the body accepts another body according to his present actions and reactions. It is just like when a man walks on the street, he puts forward his foot, and when he is confident that his foot is situated on sound ground, he lifts the other foot. In this way, one after another, the bodies change and the soul transmigrates. See how the plant worms change from one twig to another so carefully. Similarly, the living entity changes his body as soon as the higher authorities decide on his next body. As long as the living entity is conditioned within this material world, he must take material bodies one after another. His next particular body is offered by the laws of nature according to the actions and reactions of his life, of this life. This body is exactly like one of the bodies which we always see in dreams. During our dream of sleep, we create so many bodies according to mental creation. We have seen gold, we have seen also a mountain. So in a dream, we can see a golden mountain by combining the two ideas. Sometimes in dreams, we see that we have a body which is flying in the sky, and at that time, we completely forget our present body. Similarly, our bodies are changing. When you have one body, you forget the past body. During a dream, we make contact with so many new kinds of body. During a dream, we may make contact with so many new kinds of bodies, but when we are awake, we forget them all. And actually, these material bodies are the creations of our mental activities, but at the present moment, we do not recollect our past bodies. The nature of the mind is flickering. Sometimes it accepts something, and immediately it rejects the same thing. Accepting and rejecting is the process of the mind in contact with the five objects of sense gratification: form, taste, smell, sound, and touch. In its speculative way, the mind comes in touch with the objects of sense gratification, and when the living entity desires a particular type of body, he gets it. Therefore, the body is an offering by the laws of material nature. The living entity accepts a body and comes out again into the material world to enjoy or suffer according to the construction of the body. Unless we have a particular type of body, we cannot enjoy or suffer according to our mental proclivities inherited from the previous life. The particular type of body is actually offered to us according to our mental condition at the time of death. The luminous planets, like the sun, moon, or stars, reflect themselves in different types of reservoirs like water, oil, or ghee. The reflection moves according to the movement of the reservoir. The reflection of the moon is on the water, and the moving water makes the moon also appear to be moving. But actually, the moon is not moving. Similarly, by mental concoction, the living entity attains different kinds of bodies, although actually he has no connection with such bodies. But on account of illusion, being enchanted by the influence of Maya, the living entity thinks that he belongs to a particular type of body. That is the way of conditioned life. Suppose a living entity is now in the human form of life, he thinks that he belongs to human society, or a particular country, or a particular place. He identifies himself in that way and unnecessarily prepares for another body, which is not required by him. Such desires and mental concoctions are the cause of different types of bodies. The covering influence of material nature is so strong that the living entity is satisfied in whatever body he gets, and he identifies with that body with great pleasure. Therefore, I beg to request you not to be overwhelmed by the dictation of your mind and body. Vasudeva thus requested Kamsa not to be envious of his newly married sister. He should not be envious of anyone, because envy is the cause of fear, both in this world and in the next, when one is before Yamaraja, the Lord of punishment after death. Vasudeva appealed to Kamsa on behalf of Devaki, stating that she was his younger sister. He also appealed at an auspicious moment at the time of marriage. A younger sister or brother is supposed to be protected as one's child. The position is overall so delicate Vasudeva reasoned, that if you kill her, it will go against your high reputation. In this way, Vasudeva tried to pacify Kamsa by good instruction as well as by philosophical discrimination. But Kamsa was not to be pacified because his association was demoniac. Because of his demoniac association, he was a demon, although born in a very high royal family. A demon never cares for any good instruction. He is just like a determined thief. One can give him moral instruction, but it will not be effective. Similarly, those who are demoniac or atheistic by nature can hardly assimilate any good instruction, however authorized it may be. That is the difference between demigods and demons. Those who can accept good instruction and try to live their lives in that way are called demigods, and those who are unable to take such good instruction are called demons. Failing in his attempt to pacify Kamsa, Vasudeva wondered how he would protect his wife Devaki. When there is imminent danger, an intelligent person should try to avoid the dangerous position as far as possible. But if, in spite of endeavoring by all intelligence, one fails to avoid the dangerous position, there is no fault on his part. One should try his best to execute his duties, but if the attempt fails, he is not at fault. Vasudeva thought of his wife as follows: for the present, let me save the life of Devaki, then later on, if there are children, I shall see how to save them. He further thought, if in the future I get a child who can kill Kamsa just as Kamsa is thinking, then both Devaki and the child will be saved, because the law of providence is inconceivable. But now, some way or other, let me save the life of Devaki. There is no certainty how a living entity contracts a certain type of body, just as there is no certainty how a blazing fire comes in contact with a certain type of wood in the forest. When there is a forest fire, it is experienced that the blazing fire sometimes leaps over one tree and catches another by the influence of the wind. Similarly, a living entity may be very careful in the matter of executing his duties, but it is still very difficult for him to know what type of body he is going to get in the next life. Maharaj Bharata was very faithfully executing the duties of self-realization, but by chance he developed temporary affection for a deer, and in his next life he had to accept the body of a deer. Vasudeva, after deliberating on how to save his wife, began to speak to Kamsa, and with great respect. Although Kamsa was the most sinful man, sometimes it happens that a most virtuous person like Vasudeva has to flatter a person like Kamsa, a most vicious person. That is the way of all diplomatic transactions. Although Vasudeva was deeply aggrieved, he smiled outwardly. He addressed the shameless Kamsa in that way because he was so atrocious. Vasudeva said to Kamsa, "My dear brother-in-law, please consider that you have no danger from your sister. You are awaiting some danger because you have heard a prophetic voice in the sky. But the danger is to come from the sons of your sister who are not present now. And who knows, there may or may not be sons in the future. Considering all this, you are safe for the moment. You are safe for the present, nor is there cause of fear for your sister. If there are any sons born of her, I promise that I shall present all of them to you for necessary action." Kamsa knew the value of Vasudeva's word of honor, and he was convinced by his argument. For the time being, he desisted from the heinous killing of his sister. Thus Vasudeva was pleased and praised the decision of Kamsa in this way. He returned to his home. Each year thereafter, in due course of time, Devaki gave birth to a child. Thus she gave birth to 8 male children, as well as 1 daughter. When the first son was born, Vasudeva kept his word of honor and immediately brought the child before Kamsa. It is said that Vasudeva was very much elevated and famous for his word of honor, and he wanted to maintain this fame. Although it was very painful for Vasudeva to hand over the newly born child, Kamsa was very glad to receive him, but he became a little compassionate with the behavior of Vasudeva. This event is very exemplary. For a great soul like Vasudeva, there is nothing considered to be painful in the course of discharging one's duty. A learned person like Vasudeva carries out his duties without hesitation. On the other hand, a demon like Kamsa never hesitates in committing any abominable action. It is said, therefore, that a saintly person can tolerate all kinds of miserable conditions of life. A learned man can discharge his duties without awaiting favorable circumstances. A heinous person like Kamsa can act in any sinful way, and a devotee can sacrifice everything to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kamsa became satisfied by the action of Vasudeva. He was surprised to see Vasudeva keeping his promise, and being compassionate upon him and pleased, he began to speak as follows. My dear Vasudeva, you need not present this child to me. I am not in danger from this child. I've heard that the 8th child born of you and Devaki will kill me. Why should I accept this child unnecessarily? You can take him back. When Vasudeva was returning home with his firstborn child, although he was pleased by the behavior of Kamsa, he could not believe in him because he knew that Kamsa was uncontrolled. An atheistic person cannot be firm in his word of honor. One who cannot control the senses cannot be steady in his determination. The great politician Chanakya Pandita said, never put your trust in a diplomat or a woman. Those who are addicted to unrestricted sense gratification can never be truthful, nor can they be trusted with any faith. At that time, the great sage Narada came to Kamsa. He was informed of Kamsa's becoming compassionate to Vasudeva and returning his firstborn child. Narada was very eager to accelerate the descent of Lord Krishna as soon as possible. He therefore informed Kamsa that in Vrindavan, personalities like Nanda Maharaj and all the other cowherd men and their wives, and on the other side, Vasudeva, his father Surasena, and all his relatives born in the family of Vrishni of the Yadu dynasty, along with all their friends and well-wishers, were actually demigods. Narada warned Kamsa to be careful of them, since Kamsa and his friends and advisors were all demons. Demons are always afraid of demigods. After being thus informed by Narada about the appearance of the demigods in different families, Kamsa at once became very much alarmed. He understood that since the demigods had already appeared, Lord Vishnu must be coming soon. He at once arrested both his brother-in-law, Vasudeva and Devaki, and put them behind prison bars. Within the prison, shackled in iron chains, Vasudeva and Devaki gave birth to a male child year after year, and Kamsa, thinking each of the babies to be the incarnation of Vishnu, killed them one after another. He was particularly afraid of the 8th child, but after the visit of Narada, he came to the conclusion that any child might be Krishna. Therefore, it was better to kill all babies who took birth from Devaki and Vasudeva. This action of Kamsa is not very difficult to understand. In the history of the world, there are many instances of persons in the royal order who have killed their father, brother, or whole family, and friends for the satisfaction of their ambitions. There is nothing astonishing about this, for members of the demoniac, greedy royal order can kill anyone for their nefarious ambitions. Kamsa was made aware of his previous birth by the grace of Narada. He learned that in his previous birth he had been a demon of the name Kalanemi, and that he had been killed by Vishnu. Having now taken his birth in the Bhoja family, he decided to become the deadly enemy of the Yadu dynasty. Krishna was going to take birth in that family, and Kamsa was very much afraid that he would be killed by Krishna, just as he had been killed in his last life. He first of all imprisoned his father, Ugrasena, because he was the chief king among the Yadus, Bhoja and Andaka dynasties, and he also occupied the kingdom of Surasena, Vasudeva's father. he declared himself king of all such places. Thus ends the Bhakti-Vedanta purport of the first chapter of Krishna, the advent of Krishna consciousness. Haribol, the advent of Lord Krishna. Okay, we'll stop right there and continue some more later on today. Are there any questions? He wanted to accelerate what was going to happen. He didn't want it to get. He didn't want Kamsa to be complacent. He wanted him to actually do what he was supposed to do, which was kill those little boys. The first 6 sons. 7th was Balaram, who appeared to become a anyway, he was transferred to the womb of Rohini, and then the 8th child was born, and he was transferred and exchanged for Yasoda Mai's girl, who was Durga Mata. So, well, as it says here, let me just read it again. At that time, the great sage Narada came to Kamsa. He was informed of Kamsa's becoming compassionate to Vasudeva and returning his firstborn child. Narada was very eager to accelerate the descent of Lord Krishna as soon as possible. He therefore informed Kamsa that in Vrindavana, personalities like Nanda Maharaj and all the other cowherd men and their wives, and on the other side Vasudeva, his father Surasena, and all his relatives born in the family of Vrishni, of the Yadu dynasty, along with all their friends and all worshippers, were actually demigods. Narada warned Kamsa to be careful of them, since Kamsa and his friends and advisors were all demons. Demons are always afraid of demigods. After being thus informed by Narada about the appearance of the demigods in different families, Kamsa at once became very much alarmed. He understood that since the demigods had already appeared, Lord Vishnu must be coming soon. He at once had arrested both his brother-in-law Vasudeva and Devaki and put them behind prison bars. So Narada Muni wanted to make sure that everything happens according to plan or accelerated. Any other questions? Yeah. Yeah, it's a very important statement. Yeah, I'm looking at it. Yeah, envy is the cause of fear. Well, envy means that there's someone greater than you. And not only you want to emulate them, but you want them destroyed. So, whenever you want to destroy someone that's greater than you, you have a feeling of fear. You're not sure if you can actually destroy them or not, so you do whatever you can. So, let me just see where it says it. Vasudeva thus requested Kamsa not to be envious of his newly married sister. One should not be envious of anyone, because envy is the cause of fear, both in this world and in the next, when one is before Yamaraj, the Lord of punishment after death. Vasudeva, okay, so, like I said, you envy someone, you want to destroy them. you're not satisfied emulating them. But obviously, you have doubts about your ability to destroy them, so you have some fear. And so that's why it says you should not envy anyone, because it'll in the end it'll cause fear, and fear puts doubt in your mind, and you become, let's say, unnecessarily disturbed by the whole enterprise of envy and fear and then doubt, and always your mind preoccupied with the person that you envy. So envy is worse than jealousy, because jealousy, if you get the same thing that this person that you are jealous of, then your jealousy subsides. But envy is much worse, because you want to destroy that person, not just emulate them. So in the end, you're not sure if you're capable of destroying that person. It's just like in a war. When the war starts, you have certain amount of faith that you'll win the war, but as it goes along, you begin to doubt it. And so those type of doubts cause fear. So best thing is not to envy anyone. Vasudeva thus requested Kamsa not to be envious of his newly married sister. One should not be envious of anyone, because envy is the cause of fear both in this world and in the next, when one is before Yamaraj, the Lord of punishment after death. So why should he envy his sister, right? So he became fearful, because he thought that she would be the cause of his death. What? Yes, how is that? Yeah, your mind is being preoccupied with something else. Yeah. Yes. Well, Krishna says, Konteya pratijanihi nami bhakta pranashyati. So, declare it boldly, Arjuna, that my devotee will never perish. So, when you start to envy someone, then you're not sure that you're going to be protected. And your mind becomes, let's say, preoccupied with something other than Krishna. Yeah. Which souls? Yeah. Well, it says here that one should not be envious of anyone, because envy is the cause of fear, both in this world and in the next. So, enviousness means somebody has something you don't have, and you want to get that thing or better. But when you're envious, you want to also destroy that person. So it's impossible to be on friendly terms with that person. You want to destroy them. Just like when Hitler made a peace treaty with Stalin, and they promised that they would never attack each other. Right? And then Hitler goes ahead and later on and attacks Russia, and Stalin tries to destroy and conquers Russia. So that's enviousness, right? You make first of all, he makes a peace treaty with him. He says, "Look, we won't attack you. You won't attack us." Okay? And they signed a peace treaty. Then Hitler felt confident that he could attack and conquer Poland, and then France, and then Netherlands, and then he was trying to, conquer England, and also the Scandinavian countries. And then all of a sudden he goes and attacks Stalin. So, why? Because he was afraid that Stalin would attack him. Because he was so involved and he was, but then on the other hand, he was confident that he could destroy, or conquer Russia. So you get all these different emotions that are actually false when you become envious of someone. And there's a mixture of fear and confidence that you can defeat this person or destroy them. So you see all these, it's basically many false assumptions come when you envy someone. Right? So therefore it says one should not be envious of anyone, because envy is the cause of fear both in this world and in the next, when one is before Yamaraj, the Lord of punishment after death. So you can see how atheists are actually fearful, because an atheist doesn't know what's going to happen after death. So the way they can free themselves from fear is to have the certitude that there's nothing after death, but they're not sure. You see. So the devotees, they know that there is something after death, and they prepare for it by developing Krishna consciousness. And the karmis, they just pray that there's nothing after death, and if there is, they're in big trouble. You see. So it causes, and why is this? Because they're envious of God. Why should there be a God? So eventually it causes fear. And the main thing is it causes false ideas in the mind. And as soon as there are false ideas in the mind, that means you're not sure of what's going to happen in the future. That's the cause of anxiety and fear. So what did Vasudeva do? He convinced Kamsa for the time being that there was no danger for him. What did Narada Muni do? He convinced Kamsa that he was in a dangerous position. So you see how as soon as you become envious of someone, it causes all these misconceptions, and whenever there's a misconception, there's fear. So just like someone tells you, oh, the world is coming to an end, Y2K. So because you have a doubt about the future, you become fearful. So that voice that comes to herd, he had a doubt about the future. And he focused all his attention on his sister, who was going to give birth in the future to a son that was going to kill him. So he became fearful. And for the time being, Vasudeva calmed him down. But Narada Muni came and reactivated his fear. So you see how easy it is to convince people one way or the other. You can make them very fearful, and then you can calm them down. Right? But whenever there's a doubt about the future, people become fearful, and they start acting in strange ways. And just like, what do politicians do? The politicians say, "Well, if you re-elect this person, the whole country will be ruined." So then people finally decide, yeah, that guy's nonsense. I'm not gonna vote for him. I'm gonna vote for this guy because he's gonna save the country. Right? So people get convinced very easily by different types of false propaganda. So Kamsa was convinced that his sister would give birth to a child that would kill him. And then Vasudeva calms him down. He became envious of his sister right away. And he gets calmed down. And then Narada Muni inflames him again by telling him, that all these people are actually demigods and they're your enemies. So then he became fearful. And because of that fear, he started killing little babies. Okay, we'll stop right there. Thank you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada Jaya. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma. Shri Guru Bando Mui Savadhana Mate Bando Bando Mui Savadhana Mate Jahara prasade bhai bhava toriya jai. Jahara prasade bhava toriya. Krishna prapti hoye jaha aate. गुरुमुख पद्म वाक्य चिते ते कोरिया ऐखा गुरुमुख चिते ते कोरिया আর না করি হো মনে आशा श्री गुरु चरणे रति ऐसे उत्तम गति श्री गुरु चरणे रति ऐसे जे प्रसादे पूरे सर्व आशा
जे प्रसादे पूरे सर्व आशा
चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से 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 दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशितो दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशितो प्रेम भक्ति जहा होते अविद्या विनाश जते भक्ति जहा होते अविद्या विनाश जते प्रेम भक्ति जहा होते अविद्या विनाश जते वेदे गाय जहर चरितो वेदे गाय जहर चरितो श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आदम जनर बंधु श्री गुरु श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आदम जनर बंधु आदम जनर लोकनाथ लोकेर जीवाना लोकनाथ लोकेर जीवाना हा प्रभु कोरो दया देहो मोरे पाद छया हा प्रभु कोरो दया देहो मोरे पाद छया प्रभु कोरो देहो मोरे पाद छया हा प्रभु कोरो दया देहो मोरे पाद छया प्रभु कोरो दया देहो मोरे पाद छया आए बेजग गुसुक त्रिभुवाना आए बेजग गुसुक त्रिभुवाना आए बेजग गुसुक त्रिभुवाना प्रभु पादोइल शरण जय प्रभु पादा जय प्रभु पादा जय प्रभु पादा जय प्रभु पादा गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामीति नामिने विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामीति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसदि गौर भक्तवृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसदि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajikachasta Tarasatra Shri Shrimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhakta Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Samakunda Radha Kunda Giri Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Ganga Maya Ki Jai, Jamuna Maya Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to Samaveda, all glories to Samal devotees, all glories to Samal devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Patita Pavana Ki Jai. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain the pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus feet. Attachment to his lotus feet is perfection and fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates, by him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master, the ocean of mercy, friend of the poor and Lord and master of devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread throughout all the three worlds. We take shelter of your lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Namo Vishnu Namaste Saraswati.